My name is Patricia Booth, and I'm a doctorate student at Nova University. I started in 2012, and my topic for dissertation is the Affordable Care Act. I have 3 more semesters left to graduate, to finish proposal, and 2 more classes. The reason I chose the Affordable Care Act had to do with my work as a social worker, with my second master's. I have a master's in religion and I have a master's in social work from Barry. And I chose that because of my work with seniors and people with disabilities. I've studied it since the seed money began for 26 states, and 24 adapted not to do the Affordable Care Act when it was passed. Research shows 5 years later that the 24 states who did the seed money are far better off than the Affordable Care Act. It implemented many things, and I have a map that goes into 2 sections. It implemented a new code, which doubled in size. There used to be 4 codes for a knee injury. Now there are 24. They also have 4 codes for a macaw bird bite. And what's very interesting about it is it took away the rights of the people working with their relatives. One of the things that was implemented at age 74 was that the physician had to discuss end-of-life decisions. Many physicians did not like that. They knew the family, they treated the patient or the client for 24 years, and they were forced to ask those questions. Some of them decided to call the family in when they asked those questions because they believe they're the ones that should make the decision as healthcare surrogate, family member, or pastor. But anyway, it was made mandatory in the Affordable Care Act. Then we changed the codes. And if they went early into the codes, they would get money back for the office. If they went late into the codes, they'd be penalized. If a person entered a hospital and under an HMO, they were only given 5 days to stay, and they came out and they went back to the hospital with the same diagnosis, the hospital and the doctors would lose points. Now, another thing that was implemented was the nurse practitioner in a bigger office seeing more patients than the doctor. She would see them maybe 4 times a year, and the physician would see them once a year. And the only thing she couldn't write was narcotics. We had double payers. We had many, many insurance companies, even for the med waiver and the diversion program. But after it was fully implemented, in 2017 it imploded, and many insurance agencies left the state of Florida, leaving some states in the United States with only 1 insurance agency. So now we look to President Trump to rectify with the Senate and the Congress if they can ever work together for the good of the people that elected them. So we'll see what happens in the future for that topic. My interest with people with disabilities came at a very young age. My mother was born as a blue baby, and she was born with 2 spinal links missing in her neck, which made her neck shorter. So her mother did not baptize her. The nurse baptized her, and it was about a week before her mother held her and accepted her. But in life, she didn't treat her very well. Anyway, my mother told me everybody has a disability in life. So I never saw someone disabled as not normal. So the first introduction I had was a gentleman in my neighborhood that he wasn't quadriplegic, but he sat in a wheelchair and he could throw the ball to you. And all the children in the neighborhood at my age of 9 were afraid of him. So I got the parents together with the children and said, this man has the same color blood as you and I, and he's a human being and deserves to be treated as one. He's just looking for a friend. So when we moved from that neighborhood, I moved to another neighborhood where right behind the house where I lived was the grandmother of a child with muscular dystrophy. It was in Long Island, New York, in Farmingdale, Long Island, and she had a heated pool. And she asked me to go in the pool and swim with him. The saddest thing was when he died at 22. We had become friends. Now, my next thing with people with disabilities was when I worked at the diocese. I was invited to go to a Faith and Light meeting, which is a takeoff from John Vanier for the Larch Homes for older children. When the parents get older and they think they're going to be near death, they have these group homes where they live in the group home and can go home to their family and some of them can work, and they have activities that they do together. So from that introduction to some in the diocese that were opened, and with Sister Rita Bourne, who was the head of ministry with disables, she invited me to a Faith and Light meeting. I went to 2 Faith and Light meetings in Holy Name of Jesus, where the mother who started the group, before it was discerned Faith and Light to be a part of that has 1,400 communities even in Beirut, Lebanon, they decided she had 3 children that had 3 children with special needs. So the lady came from Florida and Georgia to discern it, and I figured I'd be one of the co-leaders. Well, they came back to announce who the leader was, and I was totally shocked, never having been married, never having children. And they discerned me as the leader, and the 3 adults with 3 children with special needs were all the co-leaders. And I worked with this group for 10 years. I got to go to an international conference and meet people from all over the world. And I met John Vanier, and I met the lady Marie, who took the group first time to Lourdes, and they were refused. Well, I was a member of the group for 10 years, and the leader, I planned with the spiritual leader in Washington a retreat and a fiesta. And I asked why they discerned me as the leader, and there was a little girl who had Down syndrome who was 3 months old, and I held the child as if it was normal. So all 40 members says that's why I was discerned. But it was a wonderful experience, and I have a friend, Annette, who has a grandson that is on life support, was injured when he was very young, and he graduated high school at 19 with honors, and he loves to do the computer. So these people and teachers along the way, and the family members, Stacy and Annette and the whole family, I journeyed with him from a baby till 19 till he graduated, and on his 20th birthday he's able to, with an apparatus, do the bowling ball. So now he's very interested in doing web pages and maybe taking some college courses. He operates the computer through a mouse, and he uses his nose to operate the computer. And believe me, he's more proficient than I am at the doctorate level with the computer. This section deals with Kappa Delta Phi Honor Society, both international and United States. I became inducted into the society for education 2 years ago. And I never met Dr. Sandra Trotman because she was sick, so I got my pin and my piece of paper for international, the certificate, and United States from Laura Perkins, and she's in Indianapolis. She's KDP chapter person and international. So I've had a lot of contact with her over the past 2 years. I met Dr. Sandra Trotman because she was having an activity on the main campus that I couldn't go to, and she said, "Oh, I never met you because I was sick when you got your pin." So she said to me, "Tell me a little bit about you so that I know who you are, because you don't always come to the Fort Lauderdale campus. You're on the satellite in Palm Beach Gardens." So I told her, and she wanted to know where I was in the program. And I told her if I had not picked the Affordable Care Act to do my dissertation on, I would have picked disabilities and special needs, for the simple reason that they're all mainstreamed at some point into the regular classroom and treated like a normal person. And they can do all the things in professional development class that all the other people can do in their regular class. So we decided to put in a proposal for a professional development class that was an original design. The design was for 4 high schools, mandatory by the district. 3 of them taught special needs, and the last one, the last high school, didn't, and they had biases to the disability. So at the cry of the parents and the cry of the district, there was mandatory, a 4-day conference with CEU credits, and they broke down by the 3 who taught disabilities with the vice principal and the principal, and those who didn't teach disabilities were made to come along and address their biases to the disabilities and do the same thing. On the last day, the panel was there who volunteered as 11th and 12th graders, some moving on to college, about the importance of being mainstreamed. And there are disability rights that I learned about in the diocese that protect everyone to go up to the doctorate level what takes place is that the teens go up to the associate level and they're made to unmainstream. And I think it's really disfair to them because they've been made to be mainstreamed all their life. And I only know 2 people that went up to the master's level. And I have research of about 400 pages of different colleges that specialize for mental health or different types of disability like life support or bipolar or slow learner or all those things. So I would like to write a book one day after I graduate about it. I've been told that I should, about my faith and light experience and my experiences from a child with people with disabilities. And my mother's telling me that they are normal and everybody has a disability. Mine is multiple choice. That's why I'm not licensed as a social worker. Anyway, so Dr. Trotman and myself put in for the proposal for the conference, and there were like 10 picked from Georgia and Florida. There will be 150 breakout sessions and 2,000 people attending the conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in October. And the title of our presentation, I have to go to the piece of paper, is Instructing Outside the Box, Teaching Children with Special Needs. So Dr. Trotman comes with a large background and highly educated woman, and she has her PhD in mathematics and instructional leadership. She works on the STEM project, and that deals with mathematics and literacy and many other things. She teaches from the undergraduate to the doctorate level at Nova, and she's very patient with the students and always available to talk. And she also works with the honors students, and she's written textbooks and books related to the things that she does. So she's been at Nova since 2012, and before that she taught in the Caribbean. She was assistant principal, and she's done a lot of things. For my biography, I was a student that didn't excel in school. I started nursery school and at 4.5 and then was pushed all along, and I didn't want to go to nursery school. And I was kind of independent-minded, and I always questioned, what do we have to take this subject? It has nothing to do with the other subject. What's the relationship? So pretty much as an only child, I felt all of education was in a box, and that you have the toy that winds up, that the clown jumps out of the box, and I felt that the clown couldn't jump out of the box. I felt it was all boxed. So it wasn't really till I got through undergraduate school, which was a wonderful school. I went as a returning student because I quit. And I had wonderful teachers like Dr. Yanovich and Dr. Mayo, who've taught like 40 years. And some of them have been friends throughout the years, and we still communicate. And through God's guiding me and different professors and the journey in life with different people with disabilities, they all shape my persona and who I am. I take a little something from each teacher, and it becomes a part of me. And I also believe in the global education perspective. I think that's important for the future. But anyway, I have the undergraduate in philosophy, a master's in religion and pastoral ministry, which came from, there were 8 pontifical institutes in the United States. I went to St. John's, and the degree was a master's in religion and pastoral ministry. And then after I worked for the diocese doing lesson plans for adults for 10 years, then I worked in a parish in Port St. Lucie, and in Long Island I worked as an umbrella DRE K through adulthood, RCIA and everything. And I really decided that I love to do lesson plans for all of it and teacher training. And I decided maybe sometime I might do the doctorate in education, because I also liked clinical psychology. So my other master's I had started at Malloy, and I got the opportunity to become associate for Christian formation at the diocese. I was 34, and I was the youngest out of the 7 dioceses. So I left the 12 credits behind with Fordham, and 15 years later picked up the MSW at Barry and had to learn the APA style, which is much like learning how to write the dissertation. It's like a foreign language, and once you learn it and digest it, then you know it for life. But anyway, so those are the degrees that I have and almost finished the doctorate. Part 4 is Why the Importance of a Global Education. Now it's becoming popular with the students. Usually the students would do all in education, all the degrees, the undergraduate, the master, the doctorate. Some would stop at master's specialists who aren't interested in, they're interested in being like a head of a department of a specific interest like special needs or things like that. So not everybody, in NOVA, there's 12 specialties at the master's specialist, just like there is at the doctorate level. But I chose the importance of a global education because I like diversity, and I don't like doing the same thing day after day. So that's why it's philosophy, religion, social work, and the doctorate in education. So I think it gives, from the philosophy background, I got a broader perspective of looking at the world. And a lot of people who take philosophy have that, where they look at the world in a bigger picture and they look at other degrees. So now global education is something that students are looking at. When I did it, the teachers were like, "What do you want to do?" I said, they went along with me and I did it. I think it does make a difference in how I look at people as a social worker, in religion, and in the perspective of everything in my life, working with clients, seniors, and children with disabilities or adults as a social worker for 16 years. So I believe that it is important. I also like the new things that are coming up with the children in 4th grade. They're meeting people in Sweden and dialoguing with them, and they're dialoguing with students in the United States. One of them was in sports. Both of the groups were in sports, and they raised enough money to be able to meet midway in the United States and meet each other in person. And I thought that was really cool. I think it gives exposure to different cultures and different ways of life. And I think in today's society there are a lot of biases with racial and everything else. They still exist, even though we're in the 23rd century, going into the 23rd century. So I guess that's my reason why I think global education is important. It opens a person's mind not to being narrow, to being more broader. In the scholarship letter that I wrote for KDP, we were asked what would we like to do after finishing the doctorate, if we got the opportunity to land maybe in a rural position where there is a need for people that are educated at the doctorate level. And some of these colleges will allow you to help pay back some of your degree or let you do postdoctorate work. And I'm very, very interested in continuing in research. I'd like to do Part B to the dissertation on the Affordable Care Act. It would have been a double-blinded study if I had done it. I have a questionnaire developed, and I have 350 seniors who would take the self-administered questionnaire from 2 different HUD buildings, and I have an indefinite yes on that. So I might like to do Part B to the dissertation later and publish it. And then combining research, my love of research, with the real gift of the special needs people and the mainstreaming and all the things that I've seen and the hurt in them becoming unmainstreamed and not finishing their dreams and their goals. Dr. Trotman has said that when I finish the dissertation, since she's written books, she would work with me along with that to get published, and KDP has a publishing section. So those are some of my goals, and since when we reach one goal, we're still alive and we have to put another goal up there, my dream would be to find somebody in philanthropy and open my own high school and proceed to hire specific teachers and people who would do research to see when those students graduated how far they went up the ladder in education. Did they go past the master's level to the doctorate level? Proceed to network all of that and be able to do statistics for a book. And then the other thing is I have a very big dream. It will probably never happen in my lifetime, but I hope someone has the opportunity. I had the opportunity to speak in Cambridge, England at St. John's University. And what I think is wonderful about their faculty is that they live right on the dorm and communicate with the students whether they have a family or not. And I think that's a wonderful part, to be there with everybody. For me, the doctorate level with the professors was great, but it was a big jump for somebody going to be 62 years old to go on the computer and do the classes and never see the people, only twice a semester. So this part of the degree, the rest of the dissertation, is a very lonely section. It's alone with the chair and some other teachers who live at nearby Nova, and it's very isolated for me. It's very painful, even though I like the research. So I know that I like the classroom environment. Yes, could I teach something on the computer? If I lived here and somebody wanted me to teach an international conference in England and get on a couple of times a year, probably, but being a social worker and looking at body language and looking at a lot of things, there's a lot left out doing it on the computer. So I think it needed to be half and half. But those are my goals for the future. I would like to administer a program, meet a philanthropist or somebody who'd want to do that and follow them through. And the other one would be to teach in Cambridge, England. I would love to do that. And maybe teach in Alaska. The rural of the places, the more money you get paid. I think that would be nice for a change of pace after spending this long in education. Anyway, I thank you for taking the time to listen to me on my YouTube, which will go into a web tube. And I hope you have a blessed day.